So Bernardo, Sherri, I'm going to get us started. So good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to the final webinar in our In Dialogue series for this year. This is our fifth one, and this is a holiday special, as you will see. And to recap to everybody, the purpose of our In Dialogue series is essentially designed as a series of conversations to inspire and provoke dialogue on important subjects. And this is certainly a good one. And we're very fortunate to have Dr. Sherri Malouf and Bernardo running this one for us. I want to take a moment to introduce to you the PNG Alumni DFDW chapter. We are the ones who are hosting this. And, you know, given that we are currently all operating in the virtual world, we've opened our webinars to everyone who would like to join. So everybody on this webinar may not be from the Texas DFW chapter. In terms of board members, you can see we have a very, we have managed over the
Didn't take as long as I thought.
Can you guys please put your phone on mute, please?
to mute. Thank you. We have together a very impressive lineup of board members, as you can see. And I wanted to take a moment here to introduce you to our host for the evening, Bernardo Meza. He is the VP of Marketing in Consumer Products and Retail, and he's, of course, a PNG alumni. And I'm very fortunate to have him on our board. And in case I didn't mention it, I'm Ranu Gupta, and I am the president of the DFW chapter board. On this note, I'm gonna hand it over to you, Bernardo, to take it from here.
Yes, thank you, Manu. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Bernardo Meza, and I'm very excited actually sharing with you guys today a fantastic event that we put together, Leading Through Influence in a Virtual World, right? And this is part of an event of the Dallas chapter for the PNG alumni. And I want to introduce, our guest speaker, Sherri Malouf, right? She's the chair and the principal of SMS, and they're the ones that actually developed the Positive Power and Influence program. And she has over 30 years of international training with large organizations in everything you can imagine, from influence to negotiation to leadership to conflict resolution. She's actually the author of a fantastic book, which we'll be talking about later today, which are going to be released in February next year, which is Science and the Leader-Follow Relationship, the Leader and Follow Relationship. And she has an outstanding experience, right? She has a Bachelor in Science and an honors degree in Economics and Law, a Master's in Management Research, and Management Shop Floor Contact in a British factory, and a PhD in Human Development in School of Leadership, the impact of the implicit social leader elements on the quality of the leader-follower relationship. So, so I'm very, very happy that we are able to get in contact with Sherri. And without further ado, Sherri, why don't you talk about leading through influence in a virtual world?
All right, thank you, Bernardo. Hi, everybody. I'm decked out for Christmas and the holidays. I've got my reindeer shirt on, Christmas tree earring, and a little bell here. So I'm all ready for the holiday dress up. So our company is Situation Management Systems, and we've been in business for a long, long time. The original folks that established the company are David Berlew, Roger Harrison, and Earl Rose, and they actually did it based on some research around influence. So we've been influencing for a long, 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 long time. And one of the things that I remember in talking to Roger when he was alive, he actually said that the idea behind the Positive Power and Influence program was to help the soft people toughen up and the tough people soften up. So it was really a goal to help people develop and grow in their ability to manage their impact on other people. And you know, the Positive Parent Influence Program, based on the situational influence model, has been around for many years. It's all over the world. We have partners from the very beginning. We've got partners that have been delivering this all over the world since the 1970s. And we've constantly developed programs. A lot of them at their core are around influence. For example, negotiation is a process, and that process only takes place through influence. There's leadership and change, influencing change. So there's a whole range of programs that we have, and it's all around different ways to think about managing your impact, managing your emotional intelligence, and being able to influence other people. Now, we started training virtually a long time ago. It was interesting because the World Bank has been one of our clients for a very long time. And they said to me that they wanted me to come down to Washington, D.C., and this was in 2012, because they wanted to be able to deliver the program to people all over the world, and they wanted to use their internal network. And I think that was our first virtual program that I delivered. And it was quite a while ago, and we've come a long way since then in terms of technology and what we can use and how we can connect with each other. And we continue to grow hand in hand with technology and influence, and how do we keep adapting in this crazy world. So that's just a little bit behind the company. And then these are, you know, the programs that we have sort of based in, for example, personal power. You know, how do you ground yourself in your power? How do you ground yourself in managing your impact on other people? There's positive parent influence. There's one that I created that's about leading through adversity. And honestly, the drive behind this program was, how do you deal with difficult and aggressive people? For a lot of people, that's not an easy thing to do. So this is all around, how do you deal with people who are really just, they want to destroy you. They're not interested in a relationship. They just want to do damage. Then, you know, we looked at projects and managing projects, and there's so much out there technically for managing projects, very little on the soft side of project management. So we look at things like organizational street smarts, which is understanding the politics in your stakeholders, how to influence, how to negotiate, how to manage a team. You know, so all the different pieces of actually taking a project from the first idea all the way to implementation.
And Sherri, you have worked extensively with Procter & Gamble over 30 years, but what other companies you have worked with?
I'll get to that in just a second, Bernardo. We've got that in a second. I know you're interested in understanding. So there's like the World Bank is one, Chevron. We've been in the banking sector. We've been in just about every sector there is, because we've been around for so long. I've got some specifically listed on another slide.
Thank you.
So again, the programs can go through both based on personal power, selling and buying, and organizational change. So the Positive Parent Influence Program is a fantastic program, and it really does help people understand how they can manage their impact on other people. And you can see that it's, you know, based on research, got great trainers, globally applicable. But one of the things that we do that's very different from other people, and this is so important when you're looking at how you come across virtually, is what's your tone of voice? What's your body language? What are the words that you're choosing? All of those things have an impact on other people. And so we really want to take a look at, you know, what are you doing that works and what are you doing that doesn't work? And so we first delivered to P&G in 1977. And I don't know if anybody was around back then, but our first internal trainer was certified in 1978. I believe it was Carol Tuttle. if anybody remembers Kara Tuttle. But we've been a continuous relationship with Procter & Gamble since then. And we're now delivering virtually. It took a while to do the transition, but working with people internally, we've created very effective programs for virtual delivery. And these are some of the other folks that we've worked with. We can see it spans different industries, and Fannie Mae, Harvard, Hershey, FDA, Toyota, Coca-Cola, ExxonMobil. We were with Anheuser-Busch, Bank of Montreal, you know, just off the top of my head, there's just been lots and lots of different organizations. So that's a little bit about SMS and the Positive Parent Influence Program.
No, and that's fantastic. The group of companies that you have worked with, all very impressive. And I don't know if you can tell us more about, you know, what you have found from a virtual world. What have you seen there?
Well, you know, there's been a lot of people investigating what's happening virtually. And this was an article, it was in Founders Forum, or it was by Founders Forum, it was in Business Insider, and looking at COVID. But this was about smaller companies and really thinking about how productive is remote work. And, you know, it's like slightly more and considerably more is around almost 60%. So people feel they're more productive, but they're working more hours. So that's kind of like, and the upside is it's flexible. There's no commute. We're saving the environment. But the downside is, and this is interesting in how it comes across, that we miss the social interactions. We miss the sort of bumping into somebody in the hallway and having a chat. All of that informal connection that we do with people has to now be actually worked in and created to be a part of our interactions. So for example, we have one client, they're called D&V, De Norske Veritas. And what they have done is they took a 9.5-hour program and turned it into 14 hours because they wanted at each time that they met, because they would meet different days, that people would actually have time, informal time to talk, connect, you know, everybody gets a coffee and sits down and just talks about what's going on. So that need for social connection is very strong.
Yes, and I can relate to this, you know, at least from my experience here in the office, they actually brought us back. I was kind of missing that social interaction. And working from home made me really, really efficient. You know, why? Because I was working past 6, 7 p.m. because I didn't know when to stop. And that's something that's, you know, could be okay for the short term, but staying the same way for over 10 months, over a year, that could be challenging.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
anyway, yeah.
Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
No. Please tell me.
I was just gonna say, I was wondering how other people were experiencing it. You know, so other folks that are here on the call, why don't you join in with Bernardo and I and take a look at some of these numbers here. What's your experience been? How about, what if I call on names? Will you talk to me if I call on names? I can see a few. Oops, geez, sorry, I just hit this accidentally. Ricardo or Christian or Raquel? How's it been working virtually for you?
I think someone's posted in the chat, Sherri.
Yeah, I can't see, hold on, I gotta take a look at the chat. Most of my career, I've worked from home. The important thing is to have strong boundaries between work and home life. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Yeah, I mean, if you want to put stuff in the chat versus talking, that's fine too. I'll keep it up so we can see it. Be nice to have people chat though. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that people felt was the lack of work-life boundaries was a problem. So let's take a look at this next slide, which again looks at you know, what are some of the learning trends? And this particular one is McKinsey. And, you know, one of the things that really shows up strongly for me here is if you look at the box on the left, social and emotional skills and technology skills are perceived as being much more important. And if you look at the box on the right, you know, again, it's how do we connect here, which is what I'm trying to do with you all. I'm trying to pull you out and have you talk to me. So David, let me see if I can get anybody to chat with me. When you look at what's here, what makes sense to you as you're looking at this data?
Hey, Sherry, if I may, this is Alex. So I think the transactional elements, the productivity, the connectivity, the digital tools that are available to continue operating have been great. In particular, I have found it particularly challenging dealing with conflict, with emotions, reading what people are feeling through screens, and the argument, the debate, the energy that sometimes raises up in a room, and it's healthy to drive progress towards goals and find.
Yeah, I found that it's really interesting that, you know, one of the big things that I talk about, this implicit social elements, one of them is self-control. And one of the things that I've noticed is it seems like there's less self-control with some people in the virtual environment. I'm not sure why that's triggering it, but being able to handle those strong emotions that other people have is a challenge. And so, you know, not shutting down, being able to talk to people, listening to people. One of the big things that helps with the management of strong emotions is to just paraphrase what people have said. So David, I see that you turned on your camera and you're there. How are you doing?
Very good, Sherry.
So any thoughts from you?
I'm a fractional chief marketing officer, and I'm working with several clients. And overall, there's been a real surprise at how well things are going remotely. And there's one client who insisted pre-COVID that people were in the office 4 days a week. They could work 1 day remotely. Well, since COVID, the CEO's perspective has changed dramatically, and such that he gave up the lease to the office. He's going to get lease another office that'll be smaller. So not anticipating that there'll be a full house very often. And it opened up the ability to recruit talent from around the country, knowing that there's no longer a requirement to be in the office in Atlanta. The chance to find somebody of great skill set increases significantly. So that's been, I think a big surprise. And I have one other client who also gave up their lease, and they're going to do a hoteling option.
Yep.
Did not believe it would work as well as it has. And I think the advent of Zoom has been, real difference maker. I mean, people who, before COVID, it was phone calls, which weren't nearly as productive as being in person. But when folks could use Zoom and got used to using Zoom, it wasn't quite as productive as being in person. And certainly you don't get the impromptu collaboration,
Yeah.
but it turns out much more effective than anybody thought pre-COVID.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because one of the things that, before COVID, I had some clients who were like, well, we don't really trust people to work at home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't trust that they're going to be doing what they say they're going to be doing. So, you know, as a manager, as a leader, having to create connections with people and figure out, how do I trust what people are doing? How do I see what they're producing? How do I connect with them? I think is really interesting and challenging. Very different from when we were face to face, because when you're face to face, right, you can see a person, and we take in so much information from just watching a person walk, watching them, you know, how they hold themselves, how they, you know, sort of are going through their day, and you can tell intuitively if somebody's having a hard time. Yet when we come to this, you know, we put on our face, we put on our show face. So making those connections and having some of that informal time to talk to people is critically important. Anne-Marie, you turned on your camera, so I'm gonna guess that maybe you have something to add in here.
I always have so much to say. I'm always so fascinated by this work. I worked for P&G for almost 30 years, and one of the roles that I absolutely loved was being on the capability team when I was training and developing basically emerging leaders. And now that I have my own consulting business around wellness and well-being, it's really about culture within the organization, and that's really where it starts. So it's interesting what you just said, Sherri, about trust, and that, you know, I don't trust what they do at home. And the first thing that came to my mind is, well, what's the underlying culture that's creating that lack of trust? And so if we were to pull back the layers and really look at what it is within our own culture that's creating that level of mistrust, then I think that's where you need to start from an organizational standpoint versus looking at what is going on with the individual. It's what's going on within the culture that's creating that lack of trust. I mean, there is going to be a learning curve, and the learning curve is steep. And at the same time, it's, you know, everyone's going through a transitional period, and we're hardwired to be complacent, to be, you know, we just want consistency and certainty. And when we don't have consistency and certainty, we do go through this learning curve. So it's like, okay, great, we're all going through that. We're going to continue to iterate and course correct. As long as we have that same mission and values within the culture, we will get there. So what is within the culture that's creating a situation of trust issues?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that, you know, what I look at, and this is part of my research that I did. Bernardo was talking about earlier, the impact of the implicit social elements on the quality of the leader-follower relationship really has to do with relationships in the culture. You know, and it's those relationships, and we have very few measurement tools out there that say, okay, if you're looking at culture, what's the quality of the relationships within your culture? Because we get everything done through relationships.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing in any organization, there's nothing man-made, woman-made, whatever that exists that didn't get put there because of some sort of a relationship.
Right.
And so it's, you know, it's an interesting thing to start looking at. Culture, absolutely. And I think it's really been hitting people hard because all of the sort of gnarly pieces in different organizations' cultures that aren't showing up are blaringly obvious now with this whole COVID thing.
Right.
I mean, it really starts to show up a lot more. And I'm going to go to the next slide, because so all of these slides just have different things on it to help us, you know, think about this. How do I have the impact and influence and lead in the virtual world? So on the left and the top are some of the leadership training trends from 2018. And this was from Chief Learning Officer. So you've got 2018 and then 2020. And, you know, the difference between the two is pretty interesting. I mean, coaching, communication, employee engagement, you know, top skills targeted for frontline managers. You know, and you've got instructor-led training and executive coaching and e-learning. You know, there's all kinds of ways to deliver. I mean, it was a different world back then, essentially. We've changed dramatically. but if you look at what they say are the 10 biggest learning lessons, they're all listed here. But there's a couple of things that to me are just really, really interesting. I mean, unfortunately, Zoom kind of blew it in the beginning because of their security issues, and there's a lot of places that won't use Zoom, which is really kind of sad because Zoom is the best tool to use for, training and delivering training. But we've been using all kinds of tools. So we've been on Teams, and they're supposed to be evolving. We use Adobe, and so there's all kinds of different tools. So one of the things is you got to figure out the tools. The other thing that we've learned is if you want to start a meeting on time and you've got new people coming in, you need to do a pre-meeting to make sure everybody understands the technology and can get into the room. Otherwise, you lose 30 minutes of your meeting. Okay, so again, it talks about it's exploding and the tools must be simple. Well, if the tools aren't simple enough, you got to help people with them. The other thing is just really how do you design? How do you make it so that it works, considering and taking into consideration the limitations of technology? So for example, we like to do a lot of recording and review recording. Well, we have to create a completely different design around that because it's being able to review recording is dependent on each individual's download speed. So again, it's like, okay, what do you do with that? People want to be supported. Empathy. Empathy is one of the implicit social elements. There's 7 of them, by the way. And the idea about needing breaks, there's a bunch of different things that have come along. I mean, if we look at the last year and everything that's happened and the changes that people are going through, and people are, I really don't know what it is about 2020 that's kind of brought all of this out, but people are having very big crises in their personal lives. I've just noticed that a lot of people are going through enormous amounts of change. So, that ability to pull people online, deal with emotions, take people through different learning processes is all around design and understanding that people struggle with some of this stuff. So that's my blurb on it. Thoughts?
I do have a question on that end, and maybe, anyone can actually help me here. A lot of the work that we do day in, day out is actually to do creative work on the marketing side. We have the strategy, but sometimes it comes down to creativity. And pre-COVID, we used to be in a room, gather ideas, and one person jumped on the other's ideas and built on it. What has been everyone's experience, in the creativity side? Do you think that going through Zoom has actually worked well? And also from you, Sherri, perspective, have there been any specific training that could help us be better, with creativity at long distance?
Okay, so David, Anne-Marie, Alex, any thoughts? Got other people here too, Al and Yamil and Mike and Steve. How has been being creative? How have you experienced that?
I know that there's like a new, like a whiteboard that can be used now within, I've never used it myself, just, I don't know why. Perhaps I should probably practice what I preach, but I know that there is a whiteboard, even when it comes to, and we used to do this in workshops where, pass the ball type of thing. I think there needs to sort of be a forced, at least a start, a forced type of, sharing, passing the ball, popcorn style, whatever the case may be, just to get that, to get the ball rolling. And then hopefully over time that people will start to kind of jump in. And, sometimes there needs to be some what do you call it, healthy chaos,
Yeah.
to create something new and exciting. So some healthy chaos would be good within even this structure.
I think the other thing, just to build on that, Anne-Marie, would be let people prepare. So introverted people need to think about things. They need some space and time to come up with ideas. So, make your agendas very, very clear in terms of what you want to do, how you want people to prepare. I think there can be a lot of ways that you can play and get people thinking about different things. So, part of it is have people, if you want creativity, have people look at videos. There's so much out there that can, sort of get people thinking and feeling and looking at things, so I think there's lots of resources out there for free that actually help you get people to get into that mood to be more creative. And then, facilitate it. Pull out the people that aren't talking. I mean, I still haven't gotten everybody to talk. I've got David and Anne Marie, and Al said something. I don't know, was that Al or Alex? Ricardo, are you there? Are you going to talk to us? So I keep trying to pull people in, but part of it is getting people engaged, and what is it going to take to get people engaged and to play a role in it, and making it safe for people to do that too. So no judgment, no reactions, but having a really specific process to go forward. So we're playing with our brand, and I had 20 people from all over the world talking about our brand. And so, for example, we're just looking at the Positive Parent Influence program. And I said, okay, what's the purpose of our brand? Now, everybody wanted to go to slogans and, all that kind of thing right away, because that's more fun than talking about the purpose. But I got them to think about it in metaphors. I got everybody to think about it different ways. So part of it is just, sort of keeping people away from doing the stuff that's kind of sexy, like, oh, let's come up with all 500 taglines. It's like, no, that's later on in the process. Right now, let's look at the purpose. So getting people to talk about that is fun. And so, and recording it and sending it out and having everybody look at it and come back again. So giving the space for people to be creative and be able to contribute in different ways is a powerful thing to do as well.
Yeah, I would like to make a comment.
Please do.
So, I'm retired, so I don't have as much experience as other people on this call with Zoom. So I've been using it mostly for my board meetings, right? So, the board meetings and also the committees I'm on, right? Mm-hmm. We did one strategy review with a board, which was one complete day. So we started with business reviews, and then we went into key issues, right? Very similar to, what we used to do at P&G, right? And my learning there was that versus a face-to-face meeting, the importance of pre-reading and the importance of pre-work was even more important.
Yes.
Because when you've got people connecting digitally, right, you don't have the same interaction as others, right? And so that was my feedback at the end of it. So the departments that had done a very good job of setting up pre-reading and pre-work,
yeah,
I mean, their reviews went very, very fast. Departments that had not done that, we spent a lot of time on background and said, what happened here and what happened there, right? And just kind of, it hit me like a bucket of cold water that, look, it's even more important,
yeah,
to have the pre-reading and the pre-work when you're doing it digitally.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, and it shows when people don't do it. It's funny because it's kind of like I was saying, the virtual world is a little bit unforgiving in that sense. If you're not prepared, say, hey, what do you think? And you're like, and then we're recording a lot of these too. So, okay, Ricardo, okay, you can't talk, sorry. And
can I make a suggestion? There is a really good software called Miro, Miro.com. I'm going to be experimenting with it soon. I've not tried it yet, but I've heard from people who've used it. It's a great visual collaboration software for encouraging brainstorming, encouraging creative thinking.
Nice. So it's Miro, M-I-R-O?
Yeah. I'll put it in the chat.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Okay. And Sherri, one question, something that I wondered, it's with the whole COVID situation, are there any different type of skills that, leaders should have?
Well, You know, the problem is, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, is emotions are high. You know, there's a lot of
You can
fear.
tell my daughter that.
There's a lot of fear in people in terms of the pandemic. There's a lot of anger and frustration on the political scene. There's a lot of divisiveness that's around. And one of the things that I always talk to people about, for example, in the Positive Parent Influence program, is that you have to be centered and grounded yourself. And I actually have a bunch of YouTube videos that teach you how to manage your energy, because your energy is a part of you. You are made up of energy. There's nothing else that matters really until you understand you are made up of energy, and that energy impacts other people. And it can impact people negatively, and it can impact people positively, or you can have no impact. You know, you can be very neutral in it. But being centered and grounded, so actually managing the energy in your body, and a lot of us are not taught this. We don't understand how to do this. So I've actually got YouTube videos that teach people how to go through, and it takes about 10 minutes. And I can send a link to one of them to Bernardo, and he can send it out to people. But it's it actually in 10 minutes takes you through how to use your focus and ground and center yourself. So why would you want to do that? Well, the more grounded and in your body you are, the healthier you are, for one thing, and the more stable you are around people who are emotionally upset and angry. Because another piece of what it teaches you is how to have boundaries in your energy. And all of these things are so critically important when dealing with people who are very emotional and very upset. So that's one piece of it. And that's sort of a central core thing of understanding how to be in your body. Then there's a bunch of different behaviors that you can use. And we teach those behaviors in the Positive Parent Influence program. So for example, we teach people how to disengage. And what disengaging does is it stops the content of the conversation and says, one way of doing it is to stop the content of the conversation and say, okay, what do we need to do differently so we can work together more effectively? And Al was talking about this a little bit because he was talking about the need to get the pre-work done. But sometimes you can do this active when people are being upset or angry or whatever, and just say, okay, let's stop a minute, because we seem to have gotten, so some people are feeling upset with the discussion. So let's talk about how we're having this discussion. Do we need to listen more? What do we need to do differently with each other? And the number one way of dealing with strong emotions is to listen. So I had a bunch of people that were practicing listening skills. And I walked into the breakout room in the days of face-to-face long programs. And this lady looked up at me and she was frustrated like crazy. She goes, Sherri, you can't do these listening skills with people. I said, you can't do the listening skills with people? She said, absolutely not. It'll drive them crazy. I said, it'll drive them crazy? She goes, yeah, you can't repeat what people say. I said, you can't repeat what people say? And she finally went, oh, you're doing it to me. So what it was she was so upset. She wasn't really paying attention to what I was doing. But because I wasn't pushing back, because I wasn't trying to convince her about anything, I was just listening and drawing her energy in, she calmed down. When she calmed down, she could hear what I was saying. So there's definitely some tools around managing how people are, but you have to be able to be solid in yourself so that that emotion coming at you, and sometimes you feel attacked. Sometimes you feel people are coming at you. So how do you deal with that in a way that's powerful and strong? And honestly, being grounded and centered and using listening are some very powerful ways of doing it. I think we got another slide here. I want to take a look at our time. Oh, we're doing good.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. The 5-4-3-2-1 grounding exercise. Let's see what that one is. And wait a minute, Anne Marie. So what's the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding exercise?
That is basically it's a way for you to sort of kind of open up your peripheral vision to and get it's a way actually for people with anxiety would use it. So the first thing you would do is look for 5 things that you can see, and then just name them out loud, and then just say like, okay, I see the computer, I see this, I see that. So and then 4 things that you can hear. 3 things that you can touch, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And by the time you get to taste, normally a lot of people say, well, I don't really taste anything, but I feel like I have some saliva in my mouth. It's like, okay, great. And actually saliva is a way of, actually it's if you have a dry mouth, it's usually if you're stressed out or whatever. And if you're producing saliva, it's actually a calming thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a way to help ground somebody before they go into an anxious situation or stressful situation, but also it's to help people that are feeling anxiety or stress or frustration to get them grounded and kind of manage their energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. There's lots of different tools. And it's just understanding that there's resources out there to help you. So if we look at this, this starts off with pre-COVID and then goes to, whoops, sorry, there I go again. Geez, my mouse just goes nuts. Hold on a second. Let's get back here.
But I do want to learn more about, well, I'll wait for you, Sherri.
Yeah, there. I think this is our last one,
yeah.
Bernardo.
Yeah, but I do want to learn more about your book. I'm dying to know more about, tell us more. I'm so excited for you. It's coming on sale soon.
Well, do you want to skip this slide and go to the book?
No, well, as you say, we have 15 more minutes, so you decide.
Well, let's just cover this real quickly, and then we can go to that. It's an interesting, if you go from top left to top right, and then down, and then over to the left, it ends up on post-COVID. And, I think it's interesting what we're looking at, that, again, it's a combination of technology and communication, ability to communicate, ability to connect with people through technology, that really is going to, in the end, support us moving forward and being able to influence. So a big part of leading and, just being present virtually is around your own energy and your own ability to communicate with people. All right. So the book. Look, there I am. I'm very short.
It's a very big book, right?
I'm very short.
No, it's a huge book.
So it takes a couple of hours to read it. It's not hugely long. And I really wanted to use science to explain what's basically inexplicable. I mean, when you look at relationships, how can you use science to explain relationships? And so there's a chapter on systems science. There's a chapter on neuroscience, or what I just call it brain science. And there's a chapter on relationship science. But, it really is a very complex thing when you look at all of the different things that come in and impact relationships between, and I call it leader followers just because that's the sort of academic way of thinking and talking about it. But, there are so many things that come into just what impacts a conversation between a leader and a follower and what impacts the relationship. There's so many different dynamics there because you've got country culture, you've got company culture, you've got the original country culture of the company, you've got you've got the psychology of people talking to each other. You've got power differences. You've got gender differences. You know, there's so many things that come in. But one of the things that was interesting was I interviewed about a dozen people. I did all kinds of different interviewing, right? So I've done interviewing, I've done research, I've done all kinds of stuff. But one of the questions I asked people, and I just had to ask them, I said, so what would be the impact of an improvement in the relationships between leaders and followers in your organization? And people did not hesitate. It was like, oh, we'd be more productive. We'd be happier. We'd have less stress. You know, I mean, it's just amazing to me that something that's so obvious is still so difficult for us to wrap our heads around. So this really gets into, and the implicit social elements are basically our unconscious way of connecting with other people. It's how we're socialized. And there's 7 of them. So it's fairness, status, trust, empathy, reciprocity, mutual recognition, respect, and self-control. So what I talk about in the book is how all 7 of these actually impact relationships. And some of them are more important for other people than others. So for some people, fairness is key. It better be fair. But who knows how to define fairness? You know, people will tell you when they feel that they've been treated fairly or unfairly, but they won't tell you why. So everybody has a different definition around fairness. So how do you manage that? Mutual recognition respect is an interesting one. It's a little bit different than regular old respect because it's basically, I respect you because you're human. You don't have to do anything. You got my respect. You're a human being. You have my respect, period. And that, just thinking about that in and of itself is powerful. So one of the things that I think about with the book and how it'll help organizations is just in the conversations that people will have. Like, what does it mean to be respected to you? Because that might mean one thing to you, but something different to somebody else. So it's the kind of conversations that we can have that it'll trigger that helps people start to understand what is needed in relationships. Because close personal relationships are the most powerful ones when you're looking at leader and follower, because there is trust, there is fairness, there's all those pieces there. Anne-Marie, you had a question?
Well, again, I just get so excited about this stuff because I do a lot of talks on becoming a trauma-aware and trauma-informed employer. And that's one of the things when it comes to trust is really understanding what it is within the actual human culture. What is their script? What is their sort of neurological makeup? Because if there is underlying trauma that has actually reordered the pathways of the brain, then how you see something and how I see something, I will see it very differently than how you see it. And my, safety instincts might pop up much quicker or much differently than your safety instincts. And that's really important too from a cultural standpoint, and empathy and some of the other points that you talked about, because when it comes to traumatic experiences, a lot of people don't even have a language for it themselves. They don't even know that they've gone through it.
Well, yeah, and a lot of it's very unconscious, and that's what I talk about. Is that this stuff is, you're socialized, and socialized can also obviously also include trauma. There's ways that we're treated from the time we're conceived that actually can impact how we form relationships, and our brain forms through interactions with other people. So that's how our brain forms. So there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. The neuroscience has always fascinated me, and I've always really enjoyed that too. So there's a bunch of bits and pieces of this, and there is a narrative throughout the whole book that demonstrates all the different science and all those different pieces. So,
and I believe, Sherri, that's particularly important now, to the topic that we've been discussing all along from a virtual perspective, right? If you said, let's say as an example, if I feel offended, something you said, I can just put myself mute and take myself off the camera, and that's it. That's the way of dealing it, right? When you're in a one-to-one relationship, you cannot mute yourself, right?
It's
So,
a little bit more difficult, yeah.
so you have to see, as you were saying before, that body language, you know, helps a lot on that one-on-one relationship.
Yeah, a big piece of it is paying attention to the impact you're having on other people, because, you know, you can't control how other people react to you, but you can control and take a look at and be aware of your impact. And, you know, if somebody's reacting and it's in a big group, set up a one-on-one Zoom with them and talk it over with them. Say, listen, you know, it looked like you, I upset you, help me understand, what did I do? You know, and listen to the answer. You know, don't just ask the question. You have to listen to the answer from the other person without getting defensive. You know, so again, there's a lot on each of us to just calm down, get in your body, get grounded, and understand that we've shifted. The whole world has shifted. And our ability to sort of ride this wave and be able to connect with each other is really important in terms of us continuing to understand, yes, we're isolated from each other, but we can still really, really connect very effectively. But it takes more work. It takes attention. It takes intention. There's a lot of things that you have to put into this in order to really have the powerful impact that you want virtually and with your relationships.
Thank you, Sherri. And where can we get the book?
Oh, Amazon. You can pre-order. It's launching on the 24th. The ebook's up right now. There'll be a paper book. I discovered you can't put paper books up for pre-order, but the paper book will be there as well on the 24th.
Oh, thank you so much. Looking forward to it. Do we have any more questions from anyone? No? Any final thoughts, Sherri, that you want to share with us?
Oh, just take care of yourselves. Love yourself, love your family, be gentle with everybody, and have a great Christmas, New Year's, holiday time. And it was lovely to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for your help and provided us these amazing insights. And just for you to know, guys, this will be available. This recording will be available. So we'll forward to you later this week. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.